One of the most overwhelming pieces of evidence in relation to the issue of national security regarding the story of extraterrestrial life is that of an alien known as Val Valiant Thor. Though many skeptics widely regard the existence of extraterrestrials as being an incredible impossibility, not only is there overwhelming evidence of extraterrestrial life having visited our pale blue planet, but that this life infiltrated the highest levels of government and manipulated high military intelligence officials before finishing his mission and leaving the planet with his gathered intelligence. The name of this extraterrestrial was that of Val Valiant Thor, and according to the evidence recovered, he is merely one of many others that have used the same tactics and strategies to infiltrate different levels of government security, proving the issue of extraterrestrials to be that of national security concerns and overwhelming threat of outside life. Back in 1967, the extraterrestrial community became aware of the book titled Stranger at the Pentagon, that detailed information regarding a possible extraterrestrial visitor that worked alongside military intelligence officials at the Pentagon in the United States. Though many believed that perhaps the book was nothing more than a hoax, recent news had surfaced about the legitimacy of the book when it was authenticated by the whistleblower Phil Schneider, who not only agreed that the book was a factual description of the events regarding the Pentagon, but that the extraterrestrial known as Val Valiant Thor worked alongside his father. In fact, Phil Schneider went on record and claimed that he had a picture of Val Valiant Thor and showed it to many different people at his lecture taken back in August of 1943, with irrefutable proof of the location being taken at a high military intelligence official location. Unfortunately, before further copies of the image could be created, Phil Schneider had been found dead shortly thereafter, making the last video recording of Phil Schneider the only evidence of his claims and the picture he possessed, which can be found on YouTube today. Due to this, Phil Schneider's passing makes the last video clip recorded and the book the only surviving witness account of the events. According to the book, Val Valiant Thor landed on March 16, 1957, in Alexandria, Virginia, where two policemen approached the craft with their weapons drawn on the alien, only for him to immediately counter their attacks by using advanced techniques of what was described as thought transference to essentially use mind control to manipulate the policeman to drop their weapons and drive him to Washington, D.C., which is exactly what they did without any hesitation or struggle. This would not be the last of the extent of this mind control tactic used, as Val Valiant Thor would then go on to manipulate high military personnel that allowed him to pass through high security posts to reach the Pentagon, and then furthermore the White House itself, to be granted an audience with the then United States President Dwight D. Eisenhower. This is where the alien's dishonesty would shine and the clear statement of his intentions would come through. Val Valiant Thor made the incredible claim to the United States President that his mission was to come to the planet Earth and provide a means to not only grant free energy for all of the Earth's residents, but to usher in a new golden age that worked to solve all illnesses, deformities, crippling conditions, and so on, though never described an actual definition as to what he perceived as illness and crippling conditions. Though many supporters of Val Valiant Thor himself believe this to be a genuine want and proposition, here at Unexplained Mysteries, there appears to be overwhelming evidence for the contrary. In fact, it appears to be obvious that the intentions of Val Valiant Thor were far more sinister than expected. The striking noticeability of these sinister means was his blatant disregard for the rights to free will. All throughout the book and various witness accounts, it talks about how Val Valiant Thor used strange techniques in telepathy and mind control to gain access to high military intelligence or to trick individuals into helping him for various tasks and access points. These strange mental tricks, including making people act as a slave to his will, causing people to see odd and vivid hallucinations of all different kinds, as well as convincing complete strangers to trust him and become attracted to him as he gave lectures at random alien and UFO meetups across Virginia and Washington, D.C. These tricks and miracles would only become more and more horrifying in their nature as the true mission of Val Valiant Thor came to light. even though the extraterrestrial visitor was a self-proclaimed savior of humanity, supposedly wanting nothing more than to provide a vaguely advanced technology capable of curing all disease and illnesses, as well as providing free energy. Next to no effort was provided into completing this mission. In fact, when Val Valiant Thor approached the President of the United States and came forward with his proposition, Dwight D. Eisenhower said that it could very well cause a danger to the industries of capitalism and to humanity in general if there were no struggles left to overcome, claiming that obstacles and pain are the driving forces of human nature, and if a supposed peace on Earth were to exist, humanity would slowly devolve into nothing and no great minds could prosper and solve issues if no issues existed. Essentially clarifying that if all our help came from an extraterrestrial force, humanity would be forced into a premature state of infancy, relying solely on extraterrestrial technology and become an inherent slave race of these forces. After hearing this, Val Valiant Thor completely redacted his efforts to provide these technologies and seemed almost perfectly content with not helping humanity. In fact, the whole proposition turned out to be nothing more than an obvious bluff. Shortly after this, Val Valiant Thor then began to try to convince the United States President if he could take him aboard his spaceship and take him back to his home planet of Venus. Eisenhower then asked Val Valiant Thor where his home planet was specifically and what it was like. Val Valiant Thor then replied that his home planet was the planet Venus, the second planet from the Sun, and that it was paradise on Earth with beautiful lush green forests and heavenly atmospheres. Of course, at this time, no one was aware what the surface of Venus looked like, and though the planet was known to have a lot of the same characteristics as Earth, nothing else more was understood. The truth is known today that the surface of Venus is a blazing hot planet, which is more hell-like in its appearance than anything Val Valiant Thor claimed for it to be, marking one of the first and obvious dishonest statements he would provide. Luckily, the president had the sense to refuse and instead had the extraterrestrial detained at the headquarters of the Department of Defense, known as the Pentagon. This move turned out to be exactly what the extraterrestrial visitor was hoping for, however, as Val Valiant Thor allowed many to believe he was contained within the Pentagon. But many other witness reports discussed personnel seeing Val Valiant Thor roaming around the area without supervision and accessing secret military intelligence files. It was believed that Val Valiant Thor was using a nearly supernatural ability, as many of these witness reports regarded seeing the alien in an ethereal form wandering around, but when they would enter the room he was supposedly staying in, he would be there acting as if nothing was going on. Shortly after these stunts, it became apparent that the alien could not be completely contained and that he was perhaps acting as a spy to gather intelligence information for extraterrestrial forces. These tensions reached a climax after the Department of Defense began doing state-of-the-art testing against the clothing materials brought by Val Valiant Thor himself. The materials were described as being completely indestructible in nature. When Val Valiant Thor became aware of these tests, he merely sniggered and explained that humans were not capable of causing any damage to his clothes or to himself, and seemingly laughed off the idea of being stopped. Threatened by this, the United States general conducting the investigations confronted Val Valiant Thor, seemingly immune to his attempts at mind control, and made a few key observations. The general brought up the fact that it seemed more than a little peculiar that Val Valiant Thor would make his appearance only after the invention and use of the nuclear weapon. The general then clarified that even though modern weapons were incapable of damaging the clothes and the extraterrestrial himself, he was more than aware of how an atom bomb works and how it not only annihilates all matter, but that due to the neutrino bombardment, atoms themselves are split apart, essentially threatening the alien that if a weapon can't hurt him, an atom bomb surely could. The general then made the rather brilliant connection that it appeared to him that extraterrestrials were now only getting involved as a ploy to gather military intelligence due to their fear of humanity's ability to now stand a chance in a fight. Val Valiant Thor then confirmed his sinister orders by not only clarifying that there were other extraterrestrial beings already infiltrating the United States, a supposed 77 others in fact, but that even more were walking amongst the human race all across the world, a number that would only continue to grow in the coming years. Not only does this wholeheartedly prove the extraterrestrial intention against the human race, but that the threat of these alien visitors as a national security safety concern is overwhelming in nature. But what do you all think of these stories and the philosophies of Val Valiant Thor? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.